with my co-conspirator, Dr. Keith Fairclaw. And last
Good
week,
morning, everybody. Yep.
last week we did a panel. This week, let's see. Oh, here we're going live on Instagram. If you're watching, if you like podcasts, we'll be doing it on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook Live, and YouTube channels. And today's topic, guys, is is really one that kind of like goes close to that. For the past 3 weeks, I had people don't have too much, don't handle the pressure as well as most people do. All right. So what I want to say is, today's opening or today's show is about, have you ever been in a high pressure situation, right? Or moment where your mind was racing or you couldn't handle anything, or the weight was so heavy that you just want the voice in your head say, you just want to burn it all down and just screw it all, right? And to quit right now, so that and to do it so that the feeling or the emotions or the pressure just stops. Because a lot of people, before you make that decision, there's things that are happening, right? Things that's happening that you can control. But once you make that move to do that and something happens really bad, we want you to learn how to stay intact so you can control those emotions. And that's what it says. This one is so detrimental to me for the heart, because for the past 3 weeks, I had somebody tell me something happened. And this is pressure. Men, like me and Doc was talking earlier, but I'll let him not steal his thunder. But I want you guys to understand that this is why we built this channel, because you could be under the pressure for your stress, your job, your family, your management, everything else, but you don't know how to handle it. And I'll let Doc, explain a little bit more while I get us all technically set up, because pressure doesn't mean you're failing, guys. It means something you care about is just on the line. Basically, it's a pressure that when you want to do something great, there's got to be pressure. It's like how a diamond and rocks and coal and the earth pushes anything. And then once you quit, it's usually right before you get to greatness, right? The goal isn't to eliminate the pressure. It's to stop letting it turn it against yourself. Doc, while you get us all situated, I'm streaming through every platform we can possible. Let's talk about that, because that's important to us right now, especially for the podcast, for the people that's going to be listening to it on replay.
Yeah. And so, I think when we talk about pressure in life, right, and we're going to talk about different aspects of it as well, right? We're going to be talking about, because the most important aspect of it is the emotional pressure that we as men allow to build up within us. And then unfortunately, we end up making bad decisions, and unfortunately, we end up taking our own lives as a result. Right. So we're going to talk about that, but we're also going to be talking about the pressure in other areas as well, where we feel like we do have a lot on the line. And like, if we don't, provide or succeed or come through successful on the other end, then, the bottom falls out, and how to deal with the feelings associated with all of that. Right. Because a lot of that has to do with, honestly, depression and anxiety. Which depression is just another version of anxiety. It just means the message anxiety gives you is that it's asking you the question, do we have the capacity to handle the thing that's coming, right? Whatever that threat is, or do we have the capacity to handle whatever the consequence could possibly be? That's what anxiety is asking you when it comes to pressure. But then when it comes to, depression, the message that's giving you is, hey, we're beyond capacity. We're carrying way too much. We can't carry anymore, right? And that's when we start having those negative thoughts, when we start having those dark thoughts. And the unfortunate thing about it is, what I've found is that when it comes to those dark thoughts, a lot of times we think that, our brain's against us or whatnot, or, but the reality of the situation is, the message behind those thoughts is, we need to get these things off of our plate. We need to unload these things, so we're beyond capacity. And so you might have the thoughts. I'll use on the lighter end. I'll use myself as an example. On the lighter end, I remember there was one time when I was exhausted. I was beyond capacity, and then I had something that was disappointing to take place. And then I was like, oh man, I don't even know why I'm still doing this business. I should just pack it up. It's too much. And the fact of the matter is, that was what I was saying. That's not the real message that was going on. The real message is, bruh, there's too much. And this disappointment here, we don't got the capacity to handle it, man. And so it's
Yeah.
like, but once I got the capacity back, it was, oh yeah, I can handle. That's not a big deal. But on the extreme side, though, those thoughts are like, it's better if I'm not here. So this is going to be too hard. It's too much. It's never going to end. And unfortunately, those dark thoughts will take us down a path that we can't come back from. So, but again, it all comes from the whole idea of depression. And people say, well, what's depression? Because people think about depression, you think about, oh, you're just laying in bed all day, you don't do anything, you're sad, you're crying in the corner, and there's some overlap, right? There with depression and sadness and things like that, depression and other emotions, there's some overlap. And more often than not, we describe the other emotions that are on top of depression as depression. But the fact of the matter is, depression is simply, think about the word. It means to depress, to press down. If something is beyond capacity, if you have too much weight on a scale, guess what happens? It gets pressed down. It's beyond capacity. It starts to break. It starts to slow down. How do you fix that situation? Take things off of it so it's not pressed down. So it's the same thing for us. So yeah, those, when it comes to pressure, those are the two emotions that come up the most. And if we know how to handle it and we know what to do with it, then we won't take the most extreme or drastic measures when it comes to it. Or we'll have the capacity to handle the blow, or we'll know that, hey, whatever happens, I know I'll be able to bounce back on the other side.
Right. Because that's what it comes, that's what it always comes down to, regardless of what it is. Because when someone is under extreme pressure, and I'll give you my story after, what is actually happening basically in their body and their brain before they even realizing that they're spiraling, right? Because even like for me, when I was under pressure, when I was in the game, I was in the life, and as a criminal, as a drug addict, and all this other good stuff, right? When the walls are closing in, you're gonna get caught. The FBI is on you. The state is on you. They want you to put some pressure on it. Then you have to actually worry about what's going on in your business and everything else. You start closing in the wall. I mean, all of a sudden you stop to just care about anything because you just want it to get over with. And when I hit this topic today, I remember the time where it's like, I got to turn myself in. I got a bunch of charges coming down the pipe. I don't know if the feds is going to get me, the state is going to get me, but I know at one point in my mind, I was thinking, people go death by cop kind of thingy, right? You just go blow it out because you just want a thing to end. But I told myself, pressure makes me, and no matter how much time I have to do or what I got to do to change, there's always hope on the other side. There's always something that can alleviate that thing, because the outcome is when you start thinking about being selfish and stuff like that, in case you might be in a situation where the pressure at home might be too much, your job, it might be too much, you're going to feel a certain way. It's just that things pass by. And like Doc said, you have to unpack that fight or flight and the nervous activation system that goes in and decompress everything, take things off your plate. Once you start taking things off your plate, it's not so bad because now you can deal with things one by one. And, when a person, like I just was talking to Doc, when a person says, they want to go out and do themselves, and then it takes a split second where it's like they make that stupid decision and being selfish because of that pressure, you got to remember, we have ways to decompress that situation, to uncompress. Take it off the plate. Walk away. Do something different. Just mind your thing, because undoing yourself, there's no coming back. It's like shooting a bullet. Once you shoot that gun and a bullet hits somebody, you cannot take that situation back. And it's almost the same situation. Doc, let me ask you this. Why is our default instinct, right, under intense stress or self-sabotage, is the very things we work so hard to build but actually do?
What? Say that question one more time.
It's like, why, the default instinct under intense stress is to do something that just couples it all. When you've built, like, say your job, your pressure, like you said in your practice, you built so much pressure into your business, and then all of a sudden you don't want it no more because it's too much. Why is that?
Well, because when it comes to our brain, if we're not taking control of it and taking control of our emotions, and we allow our brain just to operate on default mode, um, it's going to do self preservation first and foremost, right? So self preservation means, yeah, I'll let the bottom fall out. I'll quit. I'll drop because that's the easiest way to relieve the pressure. Which, if you
Easiest
think
way.
about it in very basic terms, it is. If it's too hard, quit. You know, and unfortunately, a lot of us do that in a lot of situations, and unfortunately, that keeps us from actually making real progress. You know, you quit working out, because you're not seeing that immediate, on return, or you quit your marriage because you guys keep getting into fights and things like that, instead of really putting in the effort and work to change it, or you quit on your kids, so you just up and leave, you quit on the job because someone was mean and you don't want to have to deal with that, or you just it's easier just to quit. I have to be 100%. It's easier to quit, you know. Um, but I mean, it's pain on the other side though, because when you just quit and give up, there's nothing but regret after that. Man, I really should have kept going. Man, I really should have stuck it out. Man, I should have. Man, I should have stayed in school. Man, I should have stayed in that marriage. Man, I should have been there for my kids. Man, I should have done that. Man, I should have done that. So that regret's always going to be there, but that's what happens, right? That's the default mode. And unfortunately, because most people haven't been trained how to really recognize and process emotions properly, we more often than not operate in default mode. We're more often than not, we're reactive. I don't like it, so I'm just going to quit. Well, you said something mean, so I'm going to blow up. There's no real logic behind it.
Mm.
So I would say that's why we do it. Most people are just operating in default mode. People haven't learned to control their mind, control their emotions, and really think through these situations. You know,
I mean, yeah,
yeah.
for me, it's like, okay, you take out the pressure of, say, making everybody else happy, right? You take the pressure of being, you might be a high level professional running a multi-million dollar company, putting the pressure from your CEO, from your board members, because you're the CEO or you're the management, pressuring down from somewhere else, and you take it home, right? And you take it on the weight. And guys, like Doc said last week, stress kills,
Hmm.
literally and illiterally and figuratively, because it'll put you in a bad place, because you don't know, like Doc said, you were not trained, you were not taught. But that's what boundaries and brotherhood do. We want to teach you how to deal with you handling these type of stresses with Doc's trademark method, the SIR method, with my method that changes the whole belief system. And that's why we want to give to you in future episodes, because undoing yourself hurts just so many people. You mean not handling stress, anxiety, depression, and all the things that Doc was talking about, you know, will not get any better if you're not trained, or if you don't have the tools, or you don't have the capability or the culpability to actually do things for yourself, to for the bigger picture, right? Now,
Yeah.
when we talk about anxiety, right? Anxiety does certain things to a lot of different people. When you're talking to your clients and you deal with anxiety with them, what's the main thing that comes up in you as a situation, as a therapist, a therapeutic?
The main thing that comes up is people don't know what to do with anxiety, and
Comes
so
back
when
to that,
anxiety
right?
runs wild, you know, you get the rumination, you get the extreme thoughts, you get the fear, you get the running away, you get the panic attacks, you get the
Oh,
blowing up
yeah.
on people, you get the trying to hold on to something, and pressuring people. And you get all these just wild things that happen. So the thing I see the most is people don't know what to do with it. It's probably the most Anxiety is probably the most prevalent emotion, and I also want to make sure I'm clear on this. Anxiety is not
I
a
w-
personality style or anything like that. You're not an anxious person. You're someone who just has the same emotion of anxiety like anybody else does. And it's simply asking you the question again, do we have the capacity to handle the potential threat that's coming our way, the situation that's coming our way? Well, I won't say situation, because the way your brain looks at it, it's not just looking at these things as a situation. It's looking at it as a threat. Remember,
as
your
a
brain's
threat.
job is to keep you alive. And it's
Right,
very black and white in a
right,
lot of what it does, which is why you must
right.
make sure you're able to take control of it. So what's asking you is this threat? Do we have the capacity to handle this threat? And when it says threat, that means a conversation with your spouse. That means, paying a bill. That means having a different call, firing somebody. That means, what it could mean anything. Doing a speech. Your brain puts all those in life or death situations. I know it sounds crazy. I know it sounds all that, but I'm telling you right now, that's exactly how your brain's looking at it. That's why you start thinking so frantically. That's why you start ruminating. That's why you start going down all these dark rabbit holes. Oh, what about this? And then maybe and then what if that? And then, and you think your brain's against you. It's not. You think anxiety is a bad thing. It's not. The problem is you didn't respond to it. And I liken it to, I use this example with my clients. It's like, imagine if you're the CEO, right? You're the CEO of a business and someone comes to you or is trying to come to you with a problem. They're like, hey, there's this problem. We want to know how we're supposed to handle it, and you don't open the door. As a matter of fact, whenever anybody comes to some type of an issue, you don't open the door, right? You only open the door when on the side, when good things come in. What do you think is going to happen to that company? Right? Somebody's going to burn down to the ground. But what do you think that people are going to do? They're going to start banging on the door. Like, hey, let us in. There's a problem. How are we going to solve it? And it's going to get banging and banging and banging, getting louder and louder and louder. That's what all that rumination is. That's what all those panic attacks are. That's what all that, all those things are. It's you're not responding to. If you responded to it out the gate, if you said, actually, no, we don't have the capacity to handle that. I don't know how to handle that conversation with my wife. I don't know how to have this conversation with the investors, the board. I don't know how to have this conversation with my children. I don't know how to have that conversation. And honestly, I think if I do have it right now, the whole bottom is going to fall out. Well, the next response is, well, then what do I got to do to get that capacity? What do I have to do? Do I have to practice? Do I have to practice speech in the mirror? Do I have to get help? Have someone help me kind of break these things down? So it's just a matter of answer. And then once you do, you just get the capacity and then you go and handle whatever the situation is. But that's how you respond to it. But the more you run away from it, which is what most people do, the worse it gets. You try to just cope with it. And that's another thing as well. Coping skills are great, but coping skills aren't designed to eliminate it, right? Coping skills are designed to help regulate you in the moment so you could respond to whatever the thing is. But unfortunately, people think like, well, I'm just going to breathe through it, right? And then it's going to go away. But it's like your brain's going to be like, okay, we're calm now, but you didn't resolve the issue, so we're ramping it back up. And then people are like, well, coping skills don't work. Breathing doesn't work. These things, they're not designed to do that. They're not designed to erase what the situation is. It's designed to put you back in the driver's seat so you can take control of the situation and respond accordingly.
That's good. That's good, because that's what it comes down to. Because does that come down from life experiences maybe, or do you think that some people just don't want to face it? Because even like when I was at the hotel, I mean, you had the vice president in the hotel, my managers, they always used to come to me because I would calmly have the answers. It's like, because nothing would bother me, because nobody was shooting at me. Nobody's trying to steal my drugs. Nobody's trying to take me out. It's like, okay, we're handling the whole drive at the hotel, this and that. And it's like, they used to call me the general, because like they would just send everybody to come get the answers from me, right? Mm-hmm. Because it's like, I would not let that pressure when some people be like, those limos are in the way and this guest in the line and all this, and it's just all frazzled and everything else. Like, guys, this is nothing compared to what I've been through. But they always used to say it, but they haven't been through what you've been through. And each time you get over, say, that anxiety, that depression, that message I just telling you, and you come out of it, you should become a better person, like you said, right? Because when you become that better person, you don't get into that paralysis effect, right? Like you said, you might have somebody that don't know how to talk to their wife. Everybody has problems with their. It's a relationship that you have to have communication and certain things that we talked about, but you learn through that. It doesn't get so bad when you lose your girlfriend or anything like that, and you want to just end the whole world because of all that crazy nonsense stuff, right? Yeah. Now, what is usually the message these emotions tell you or tell the person, besides always trying to protect them, right? Because like you said, it's that simple. All the emotions you have, their main job is to protect you. To send you signals, because that's what their job is. It's how you interpret it. If somebody is going through it, What are some of the steps you could give them now that can help them interpret it so they can take some sort of action?
Well, I mean, I think first and foremost, they would have to take some time and learn about emotions
Mhm.
and learn, at least some of the major ones that are out there, right? I mean, there are a lot of different emotions. I have an emotion wheel that has like 20 different emotions on there. But I
Mhm.
would say some of the most common ones that we experience, anxiety is number one,
Okay.
depression's number two,
Okay.
um, anger probably number three, or probably a close between anger and hurt. I would probably maybe say hurt's number three.
Oh,
Um,
interesting.
Anger would be number four, frustration number five. Trying to think of what else. Um, I know there's other ones. I know there's like jealousy or whatnot. That's not high up there. That's not high up there. As far as
Jealousy is
like
not high up.
no, not as far as common
Oh, interesting.
emotions that people experience. Yeah, because jealousy is really specific. Jealousy and envy are really specific. Jealousy is when basically someone else has something that should belong to you, whether it's credit or something along those lines, right?
Wow.
Um,
Almost like
so
an entitlement thing.
no, jealousy is not a bad thing. Jealousy is actually it's more of like, if you say, it's more righteous than anything else, because essentially you do the big project at work and then someone else gets all the credit. You
Oh, I see.
someone
Okay.
else gets all the credit. That's not fair. That should
Yeah.
belong to you. What you're referring to is envy. That's when you
And
want
then
credit and effort for something you didn't do, right?
right.
Now you did, someone else did the work and they're getting the praise, and you're hating on them like, they don't deserve that. Da, 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 da. I'm so much better. They should be picking me. Da, 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 things like that. But I can't think of what the other ones are. But I would say those five right there, those are probably the most prevalent that I see on a regular basis, and probably people experience on a regular basis. So I would say, even if you just understood what those five were, like what they meant, what the signs and symptoms were, then you would be able to get a pretty good handle on that, right? So again, the five that I mentioned was anxiety, depression, hurt, anger, frustration, sadness. That's the other one. Sadness.
Oh, sadness. Okay.
Got that one. Sadness and grief. That's also another one that's prevalent as well. So if you can understand what the message those are telling you are, then you'll be able to respond accordingly. Right. So if you understand that anxiety is asking the question, do we have the capacity to handle the threat? If you understand that depression is telling you, it's not asking you, it's telling you there's too much on our plate right now. We need to stop, and we need to get things organized, and we need to slow down so we can get our capacity back. Anger, there's been a violation of one of our values, beliefs, or standards, and we need to correct that. It doesn't have to come through some big explosion, but we had to correct that. And then hurt, unmet expectations, so there's a wound there. And then sadness is about loss. And frustration is you're trying the same thing, but you're not getting the results you're looking for, right? So of course, you have to change your approach on that. That's it on that one. But once you understand what those emotions mean, and and how to operate, and when they show up in your life, it becomes a lot easier. Now, of course, there's more to it. I don't want to oversimplify it. There's definitely more to it than that, because what I'm starting to see is that self-worth plays a very, very, very big role in a
Oh,
lot of these things, right? Because especially there's a lot of men out there that are trying to earn their worth, and they never think they're good
oh,
enough. They never think anything they do is good
oh.
enough. So now imagine having that pressure on. No matter how much you do for your wife, no matter how much you do for your kids, no matter how great your business is, no matter how much you pour into other people's lives, you still feel it's not good enough. And so that's a major pressure within yourself already. And so since
Mm,
I'll never be able to live up to that, then I might as well just don't want to be here, because I can't take the feelings or the emotions of this anymore, right?
right.
So being able to understand your worth and your value and live that out, and not be a people pleaser and things of that nature, it's going to go a very, very, very long, long, long way. And that would be, I would say, if anything, if you know that, and you know your capacity, you know what you can handle, you know what you can do, you know your value and your worth, you'll be surprised. Taking your own life, that will be the last thing on the list of things to do, because like I know my value, my worth, and I know that if I'm
Yeah.
not getting that, I can go out there and get it. I have direct
Yeah.
control over my destiny, over my life. And so if I don't like the way it's going, I can change it, because we know there's people that have come from nothing and achieved it all. We know there's people that
Mhm.
had it all, hit rock bottom, and came back. So when you know your worth and value, it's like, yeah, it doesn't matter what happens, I'm gonna be all right. But if you don't, and you think that I'm not valuable, or you think that I'm not enough, and unfortunately, it doesn't matter what you have at that point, because you don't think you can come back. You don't think you have the
That's
capacity.
huge.
You don't think you're
That's
enough. And
huge.
so that pressure just sits there and pushes you in the wrong direction.
Do you think most men in high situation, professional situations, or just men in general that don't have that self worth, don't have that purpose, are automatically behind the line of adding that pressure already? Right? Do you think that makes a big difference?
I think it does, because a lot of
Yeah, me
those
too.
men, in those positions, what ends up happening is they're using these external drivers, these external measures to measure their own worth and value. And if
Yep.
any one of those things were to stop, right, you're no longer the football player, you're no longer the businessman, you're no longer
Yeah.
the pillar of your community, you're no longer the whatever. You lose your identity, and then now it's like, well, who am I now? Why am I here? Like, see, nobody cares, it doesn't matter. But there's also the other side, this performance trap as well, where you feel like I
Exactly.
have to keep getting better and better and better and doing better to earn love and earn love and earn love. And unfortunately, there's some cycles that just wear out, right? You can only play in the professional sports for so long, right, before
Correct.
your body wears out. Now who are you? You know, you know, so or your business, eventually you're gonna have to retire, or you have to gonna get bought out, or you're gonna, someone's gonna replace you, or whatever the case may be, right? But when you're looking to these external validators to show you your worth or your value, or maybe your wife's, you and your wife are going through it. So yeah, maybe you're killing it at work, but you come home and it's just like it's miserable, because your external value is coming from, oh, I got to keep my wife happy, and I can't keep my wife happy, and which is
Yeah.
not your responsibility at all. But unfortunately, those pressures, again, in our mind, that external validation, we talked about that in past, on previous,
Episode. Yep.
live streams, episodes,
Yeah.
um, that's a big killer, right? Because you keep looking, you're trying to get filled by something that can't fill you, and it's just not possible to sustain you. But knowing your value and knowing your worth, it eliminates that idea of, I got to take my own life. It's too much, it's too hard. It eliminates that altogether, because you know how valuable and special and worthy you are. And you know that, hey, since I know my value and I know my worth, I'm going to go out there and get my value, my worth, and even if things fall, the bottom falls out, it's okay. Because as long as I'm alive and breathing, I can bounce back, which is true. There's, again,
Right.
for anyone listening, there's no situation you can't bounce back from. There's no divorce you can't bounce back from. There's no failed business you can't bounce back from. There's no, poor relationship with your children you can't bounce back from. There's nothing you can't bounce back from once you know your worth and your value, and you're willing to take personal responsibility and start changing things. Nothing you can't bounce back from. But taking your own life, I understand as your brain, if you don't control it, it goes to that space. But I'm telling you right now, there's no situation you can't bounce back from. There's no hole you can't dig yourself out of. And a lot of times it just has to do with how we're framing things, looking at things. Because if you get to a place where your mindset's always looking at everything negative and you can't find any positive, you end up putting pressure on yourself that wasn't there in the first place.
I
You
was
end
just
up
about to use. Yeah.
Yeah, you end up putting
Yeah.
yourself in a situation that wasn't necessary, right? Because you're looking at everything wrong and missing all these things that are good. Because our lives, it's more often than not, mostly just based on perception, anyways. Someone who's poor and destitute could be happy as can be, right?
Yeah.
Someone who's
Yeah.
filthy rich and has everything could be absolutely
Miserable.
sad, depressed, and miserable, right? How is that possible? It's all about perception. So,
Yep.
yeah.
I mean, a lot of times, if you're like, if you're watching this, or you're gonna rewatch this on a replay, you might be listening to a podcast, you might be, and you're sitting in a car, right? And you try to tie your purpose with your identity to who you are, and like Doc said, you lose that. You are not that. You mean it's your responsibility, and you might not have the tools, but that's what we're for. Because who are we, Doc? You mean we are Boundaries and Brotherhood, men dedicated to empowering one another, and that's why we built this channel, to improving your self worth, to improve your emotional mastery, have some sort of accountability, not be judged, and master the communication so you can figure out a way to get over this hump. Because You could be in a situation right now where you are thinking that because, say, your girlfriend is looking for another guy, but or the job that you didn't get is under pressure. You might be getting laid off. You don't know how you're going to pay the bills. It's at the end of the day, 5 years from now, the choice you make today is going to determine what you do today and who you become. Because where you start, you might start, like Doc said, as somebody that can't have that control or wanted to do something. 5 years from now, you're going to reflect back. I remember that day that could have just ended it all and would have been all for nothing. I've seen it a lot of times. And I've seen a lot of times, no matter what the pressure you be going through, you're putting it on your shoulders. Like Doc said, that's why we went over the emotions of it in the beginning, the anxiety, the depression, the situation. So let me ask you this, because when you understand that you're in control of everything, your emotions, it's not like I would say what the right words for it would be, like lowering your expectations of yourself by putting more pressure on you, but having expectations of yourself to become better after the situation, because there's no coming back after the bad decision. You could make bad decisions, sure, but you're supposed to be learning from them. And take it from me, from making so many bad decisions in my life and just excluding it, everybody, and being selfish. Because at the end of the day, you have to learn how to understand the message all those emotions is telling you. You know what I mean? And that's what's so key about it all. Because, like, take it from me, I have, like, when Doc was going off on his thing, the emotional wheel. Depression, I don't understand. Anxiety, I didn't understand. I understand it now. Anger, I understand, because I'm only on the wheel for going that, because it was easy for me to just express that, to have that behavior, because that's what I've been taught. Now, understanding the whole wheel is what we want to give you in future webinars, workshops, and our mastery courses in the future. But for now, I want you guys to invite you guys to the free community where you can get your free course, the replays, and everything that you have to do up to this point where you might be at right now. Now, you could be going through something. I'm not saying you're not. You could be, but there's also, you could be going through something right now that can make you a better person tomorrow, right? Because that's what me and Doc are here for, guys. Every week I don't want to have somebody call me, I got another one going. I'm like, what the hell? And they're coming from all different lives, ages, lives, professions, everything. To me, it's just ridiculous, right? Doc, how do you coach someone to separate their actual identity from their temporary emotional situation they could be going in right now?
So to detach their identity. So what I would say is, first and foremost, when you think about your identity, that's who you are, as, like, if I could put it at the base level, right? Like, strip away the titles, strip away the roles, strip away responsibilities, strip all that stuff away. That's your identity. That's who you are. That's Keith. That's Gordon. That's whoever it is, right?
Exactly.
That's your identity. Your identity is not a role or a job. When someone asks you who you are, you don't say therapist, you don't say husband, you don't say, businessman. You don't say that. No,
That's a label.
I'm Keith. That's a role. That's what I do in my identity and who I am. That's what I do, and that switches, right? So first and foremost, you have to understand that, like, your identity is not in your role. And so the first thing I would tell people is that, once you strip away all your titles and your roles, ask yourself the question, who am I? What do I like? What don't I like? What are my values? What are my beliefs? What are my boundaries? Like, who is the base level version without any roles and titles, right?
Yep.
That's your identity. That's how you got to identify. And then now after that, then you could look at your different roles and things like that. And then again, look at your roles and treat it just like anything else, any other job, or that, because that's all the role is, right? A role is a certain job that has certain responsibilities. That's it. As a husband, you are supposed to do certain things. As a father, you do certain things. As a friend, as a brother, as a son, you do certain things. As a business. So when you think about that, think about it in those terms. That's not who you are. It's just what you do. It's just how you operate and interact with certain people, right? So once you separate that all out, then you can start just looking at it like, okay, if I'm not doing good in a certain area, right? Again, this is once you know yourself, once you have your value and your worth, and you know that, and you have your boundaries and your beliefs, and you stand up for yourself and emotional intelligence, all that stuff like that, then look at your different areas, right? Are you slacking as a husband? Well, then just improve yourself in that role. That's it. Yeah, no, I haven't been showing like I need to. Just improve yourself in that role. Have you been slacking as a father? Improve yourself in that role. Slacking on the job, slacking with your body, just improve yourself in that role. I give you guys an example, right? So one of the ways I view myself as an athlete, right? That's a role, right? An athlete, it's just what does an athlete do? They just perform in a specific sport or a specific area. So when I got to be pretty overweight and out of shape, So I looked in the mirror. I didn't look at myself like, oh my gosh, Keith, you're so horrible. You suck. You're horrible. Oh my gosh, how could I didn't look at myself like that because I love myself because being an athlete is not my identity. Being Keith that's my identity, right?
Yes.
Being an athlete is just something that's how I operate in certain arenas and things like that. So what I did was I looked and said, okay, well, I need to step it up. I haven't been working out like I need to. Let me go work out and get it all together, right? And so that's how I'm able to separate that out. So, like, for instance, these guys who have this pressure on, let's use the guys that have the pressure with like work and things like that, Yeah, I don't know the pressure might be, and I don't want to downplay anybody's experience because the pressure might be, dang, if I don't get this deal, the bottom falls out.
Oh, it happens all the time.
Pressure, yep. Right? If I don't highly perform, the bottom's going to fall out. Don't sit in an anxiety with that. If you need to perform better or do better, then prepare for it. Right. However, on the other side of it, though, let's look at the worst case scenario because I always work with my clients on this as well. Look at the worst case scenario. Let's just say you bomb this deal. Let's just say that everything just blows up, right? Can you handle that? What happens on the other side? Because a lot of times we don't actually think about what happens on the other side. We don't actually think it all the way through. Are you going to die? Can you come back? Is it over? Are you going to lose? Everyone in the world is going to hate you and reject you and not like you. Like the people in your life that matter the most. Like start asking yourself those questions. And now we start putting them in their logical mind. Now they start actually thinking it through. It's like, you know what? Yeah, okay. If I don't get the big deal, yeah, it could lose, we could lose the firm and, a lot of people be out of work or whatnot, but we're not going to die. We're probably going through some dire straits. We might lose the house and cars and stuff like that. And you ask, well, can you get that stuff back? Like, is it impossible to get all that stuff back? No, people can come.
Right.
Okay, so then just do your best. Do your absolute best. I'm not saying slack off. Do your absolute best. If it works out, great. If it doesn't work out, well, we'll deal with it from that point moving forward. And that's why, kind of linking this all together as well. That's why it's important to have someone to talk to, because sometimes, even if we're super emotionally intelligent, being in your own mind, there could be some old demons still there that cause you to start going down the wrong path. But being able to have someone you can open up to and talk to and express these things and get to that point where having those conversations, it takes the edge off. It reassures you, right, of yourself. Like, hey, I can bounce back. I can do this. It's going to be okay. Or you got someone that can walk through it with you. So it's really important for us to have that person to reach out to. And I know especially us as men, we have a hard time doing that because we believe the lie, we got to do everything by ourselves. To be a real man, you got to do everything by yourself. That's just not the case. And if you really did believe that, because we really don't believe that as men, to be 100% honest, we don't really believe that as men. Because we really believe that as men, no man would ever build a team. No man would ever be on a team anywhere. So team sports wouldn't exist. You would just do it by yourself. You if you're building a business, you would never get help from anybody. You would just do it by yourself. You wouldn't go to the bank for a loan. You wouldn't hire a secretary. You wouldn't hire someone to do your marketing, your sales. You wouldn't do that. You would just do it all by yourself, right? You would do marketing, sales, creation, get out there, pound the street, pound the pavement, do social media, be an editor. You would do all that. If you're playing football, hey, just do it all by yourself. Be the quarterback and the running back and the wide receiver and the lineman, and play defense at the same time. So we don't really believe that we have to do it all by ourselves. That's a lie we tell ourselves because we don't do that in any other area of our life. If you want help with your car, you probably have a buddy come over and help you with your car, right? Or maybe you're doing your son or something like that, or whatever the case. You call someone in to come fix something in your house. So the whole idea of to be a man, I got to do it by myself. It's a lie. So don't believe the lie, because the lie is allowing us to take our own lives, right? So if you need someone to talk to, make sure you got someone safe to talk to, a friend, a brother, a cousin, a pastor, whoever, a coworker, someone you can talk to and just kind of take the edge off, right? Because again, I remember there's one time I tell a quick story from I remember when me and my wife were going through some really bad financial times, and
Right.
I had a situation. My roof was leaking, and I just it was just too much. It was too much to take on, and I had my friend there, my friend RC Powell. We were he was just there to kind of reassure me, like, hey man, it's gonna be all right, man. You guys got homeowners insurance, man. And I wasn't even thinking about homeowners insurance at the time when it happened.
Mm,
Just like someone else wouldn't think about what they would do on the other side if the bottom fell out, right? But
because you're in the
because my
moment.
friend was there, he was like, it's
Yeah.
okay, man. Hey, you'll get through this. It'll be taken care of, not a problem at all. That's all I needed in the moment. I was like, oh, shoot,
Yeah.
okay. So
Stand
guess
in
what I
that,
did? I
in
took
that moment.
pictures, I submitted it, everything worked out fine. Actually worked out. That's a whole nother
Better.
story in front of the time. But I'm just telling you right now, because I had my friend there, and I'll be honest, if I had talked and opened up about stuff with people before, then we probably wouldn't have been in that bad of financial straits either. But because I wasn't talking to people, I couldn't get the help I needed. So
Hmm.
yeah, don't be in this space where you feel like you got to hold it all together and you can't talk, and well, other people have their own problems. So everyone's always going to have their own problems. That's
Yeah.
life, right?
Life.
If you're
Life is.
the only time you're not having problems if you're not trying to grow. That's the only time you're not having
Yep.
problems. You're right. So, and if
Absolutely.
someone's not having problems, they're not growing. That's probably not a person you want to be around
That's a
anyway.
problem. That's a problem in
Yeah,
itself, right
that's
there.
a problem
Yeah.
in and of itself. So, yeah, you reach out, right? I mean, it's
Yeah.
worth it, and that's what goes back to your self worth, right? Your life is worth it. It's worth being to reach out and say, hey, I need to be vulnerable. I need to open up about something. Your life is worth it. So,
No,
yeah,
my God, that's all huge because you gotta have balance in your life, whatever. Like Doc said, if you strip away the money and the materialistic things, the things that you think you gained, and the things that you didn't gain, are you the same person? I always tell people this. You take away the millions of dollars, you take the $1 million in your safe, you take away your cars, you take away everything. If you lost it all right now, would you still be the same? And that's the thing here. Do you take, like Doc said, do you take the label of being the trophy husband, the trophy dad, the everything that that comes along with it, but you might be a horrible friend, right? Or you might be a horrible husband, but a good father. Your life is going to be unbalanced. That
mm,
spokes of that wheel is not going to have, that's not going to roll, right?
mm,
If you're like Doc said, if you might be a high trained professional doing the job where you come back home and you take it all out on your kids, that's you're just egging for disaster because that spokes of your wheels, you're not controlling all your emotions because it's just one way, right? Because that thing is not going to roll. You might have a lot of things going on positive for you, but you're not right with God. At the end of the day, when you reach that point, where it's like, what have you done with your life? You didn't serve nobody. You didn't help nobody. All you did was take, right? All for materialistic gain tied to your identity to build self worth that wasn't in you in the first place, right? It's so funny when you look at it this way, and you have if you're a good steward to a lot of different people are going to respect you on a different level, and you're going to be able to respect yourself because that energy is going to be back and forth, right? Like
mm,
if you do a lot of, say, volunteer work, and you're that person, but you also do work at, say, or your profession, you have a good balance because it's not lopsided one way. This is why
mm,
a lot of people say, go do some charity work, do some nonprofit work, do something that can, because you see different lights, different angles, different situations, different things. And it makes you a whole person. So that way, when you look at somebody else, man, my life is not that bad. When you think about that situation, because
mm,
you start comparing because it's natural. Now, going back to the self-worth thing, when you're in, if you could be that person where you can have all that control. I'm not saying you have to have control all the time. It's knowing that you can get over it, to not undo yourself. Because if you're walking on eggshells in your job, your work, and you putting more different pressures on yourself for nothing, we go back to the same thing with docs and start taking them off. And that's what we're here for, guys. Let us help you take some of these pressures off so that you can handle your high stress job. You can handle the high stress dealing with 4 kids as a single dad. You can, or a single mom, to be able to talk to, like Doc said, somebody else, excuse me, to get you in a situation where you're good in your headspace and here. Because the outcome is not going to be that good if you're going to be a selfish person, where you're going to tie everything together, right? And figure out a way how you can gain your self-respect back without giving it up. Man, I get deep in some of these things, don't I? Doc, let's wrap it up.
Yeah, I think that I don't have the exact numbers, right? But I know women attempt to, take their own life more than men, but men are more successful, right?
Oh,
Um,
that's not a good statistic.
so no, it's not. I mean, neither one is a good
Yeah,
statistic,
no,
right?
that's not it.
Um, and at Real Talk, Gordon, they have those posters up, the for the help hotline, and I wish I would remember the number, but I would say call 988. Honestly, if you're having those, if you don't have anyone you could talk to or anything like that, call 988. You know, and because you can call someone right there, and you have someone on speed dial that's trained, to be non-judgmental, to listen to you, to help you, to process through it, to walk with you through that. Right, can link you to resources and things of that nature. But the point I'm trying to make is, when I'm there at the building, I'm there at the office, and I look at that poster so often. Like I look at it like every time I'm going through there, I'm walking around and I look at it and I look at the face. Like, these are real people on that poster, real people that had real lives and had family members that loved them and people who wanted to support them and like the real people, right? And so I look at that and I'm like, it's almost like I know in reality they're not there, but like, it's like, man, if they'd always asked for help, if would have just reached
Right.
out, right? If would have just allowed someone to walk with them through the pain and through the hurt. And I understand, like, some people are in a bad situation. It's like, Keith, you don't get it. You don't know where I've come from. And there is no safe place. There is no, there is all this pressure. You don't know what they call me. You don't know what they say to me. You don't know all these things and how they tear me down, how they've always torn me down, how my parents just say I was no good or nothing and things like. I get it. There's a lot of, we didn't even touch on those things, the external things that can drive us into those spaces, right? We just talked about what we think about internally, but there's external forces as well that act upon us, but that's why it's so important for us to know our self-worth and know that anyone's coming at us like that's a deficiency in them. That's a failure in them, not in us. But I just want to say, reach out for help. Please. Regardless of what state you're in, whether it's you're putting the pressure on yourself or you're getting it from the outside, reach out for help. Call 988, right? Talk to somebody, because I'm telling you right now, regardless of what you're going through, regardless of how long you've been going through it, there is help and there is hope on the other side. You can turn your life around. You can change your mind from finding all the negative to finding the positive. You can change your financial situation. You can change your relationship situation. You can change. There's no aspect of your life that cannot be changed. Be changed, right?
Walking proof of it. Yep.
And sometimes, I'll be honest, and sometimes, because I was thinking about the physical aspects as well, because some people are like, man, what if you're in this physical situation where, or have a sickness and it's just you're constant, and I don't claim, I've never been in a situation like that, so I don't want to try to, come across as insensitive, but I've heard stories of people who simply were able to change their mindset and it shifted things within their body.
Huge.
Whatever pain they were feeling, they're not feeling that pain anymore. Right.
Huge.
So there's just something to be said about that. But the long story short, there's help. There is help. Regardless of what situation you're in, there is help. There is hope. But if you just try to go it alone, and I'll leave you guys with this last kind of analogy, right? I have this presentation that I do. And one of the examples I give, it's like we talk about hope and about being resilient. And it's like being inside of a football stadium, right? And hope is like having even the smallest bit of light. If you have the smallest bit of light, you could eventually find your way out. It might take some time, but you could find some way out, right? And especially if you get help and the two people have light, you could find your way out. But if you're in the middle of a football stadium and you don't have any light, it's going to be extremely difficult, if not impossible, to get out. And that's what it looks like when we're stuck in our own mind and stuck in our own negative thoughts and we don't reach out for help to get a different perspective. That's what that looks like. And so unfortunately, when you start losing hope, it's like, well, shoot, the only way out then is to remove myself from this life. And so what I'm saying is reach out, right? There are other people out there that have light that's like, hey, maybe you don't have light right now, but I got light for both of us. Let's walk it out and get you to the other side. You know, yeah, I'm going to be with you. I'm going to walk through you with it. We're going to get to the other side. It's going to be okay. Trust me. And then as you start taking that walk forward with that person, your own light starts to reignite as well. And you find your way through these situations. So just make sure you reach out for help. Don't try to do it alone. We're not designed to do it alone. Just as human beings, we're not designed to do it alone. Forget even being men. We're not designed to do it alone. So don't try to do it alone. Don't believe that lie. Reach out, get help, call the number, or reach out to us, whatever you got to do, right? Whatever you got to do to get help, us, call the number, a friend, get a therapist, whatever, because your life is worth it. You are worth it. And there's nothing you can't come back from.
Yeah. Guys, if you're in the middle of a storm, right, in a situation, don't try to memorize all of this, what Doc said. Watch the replay. You can also head on over to boundariesandbrotherhood.com, take the assessment, log into the free community. I put a lot of positive stuff daily so that you can be in a better headspace, like Doc said. You know what I mean? We talked about it there. If you're listening to this on Spotify and the podcast, go to boundariesandbrotherhood.com, check it out, see what we're about, see how we can help you, and keep it on your phone for the next time. Because when pressure spikes or something like that, at least you can refer this and remember our faces. Oh, Doc and Gordon, we talk about this stuff. Gordon been in a situation. He's partnered with Doc. We got other partners coming in. Please take a deep breath, stay in the fight, and I'll talk to you next week on the next episode for something that we might be touching. Guys, we'll see you guys next week. Aloha. Bye.